Welcome, everyone. One moment while we get set up. Welcome, Brian.
Hi, thank you.
There is no Lucas anymore. He finally joined the hive mind. Welcome, Brian, and thank you so much for doing your presentation. I am Alexa of Speech Science. Apparently, I also say run-on sentences. If you have any questions, please type them into the questions area and we'll make sure to address them by the end. But for now, please welcome Brian to CoughDrop. Take it away.
Well, thank you. Thank you, small speaking robot, who seems to have a little bit of Lucas inside of him, as well as Lucas's humor.
How could you tell?
Okay. All right. Hi, everybody. Let's get this little chat thing over here so it's out of the way. Thanks for joining us, and hopefully you will find this to be an interesting and enlightening discussion. So I'm going to talk about some things that you may not know or may not have thought of. My goal, I'll give you a little bit of background here in a second, but just as far as logistics go, if you have any questions as I go through some of this stuff, feel free to just post them in chat. I'm going to post a couple links in the chat as well, so keep an eye out for those as we go through. But basically, before I start, a little bit about my background. The reason that my name is Brian Whitmer, by the way, and I started CoughDrop, which is an AAC company that you may or may not have heard of. And the reason that I started getting involved in this space was because I felt like there was a lot of things that we could do better or differently as an industry. My daughter uses AAC, and she actually uses eye tracking, so she's very invested in augmented communication. As I used apps and tools and stuff that are out there, I really felt like there are things we could do differently, and there was things we could do more or better to shake things up and also just to raise the bar for augmented communication. So I started building an app that I could showcase some of that and say, look, here's some stuff we could do. Here's some cool things we could mess with. Here's some ways we could tweak things. And that's what CoughDrop is. It is a full-blown AAC app. It has all the functionality you expect, and I'm not going to do too much of a sales pitch about it, but if you want to learn more about CoughDrop or try it out for yourself, you can. There's a free 2-month trial. You just go to mycoughdrop.com and you can sign up. But that's not the focus here. I'm going to talk about some things, like I said, that I think we can do to sort of think differently. I'd like to try to get people to shift their mindset and say, oh, I didn't even know that was possible. I didn't even know that was an option. And that's there. It's fun, and also sometimes a little bit of a challenge. So hopefully as we go through, you'll be able to see some of the things that I think we can do with AAC that maybe we haven't done in the past. Some of these are going to be just a little bit fun, kind of silly. Some of them hopefully you'll find interesting or maybe very applied. And like I said, if you have questions at all along the way, feel free to post them in the chat. But we're just going to jump right in. So first thing we're going to do, I'm going to give you a link to a little survey that I would like you all to fill out or respond to. This survey is going to be an interactive survey. It's actually running inside of CoughDrop. So one of the things that we have done with CoughDrop to make it a little bit different, CoughDrop is web-based. So everything can run inside of a web browser in addition to apps on the iTunes App Store or Google Play Store or Amazon, the Kindle store. So you can run it wherever you're at. But that actually opens up some really interesting possibilities, which is one of the things I want to talk about. We can have dynamic and interactive resources where that wasn't necessarily possible before. So that's what we're going to do. If everybody wants to go to that link that I posted, here's the link again on the screen in case you can't see the chat. It's a bit.ly link to lowercase w5, capital P, capital L, to lowercase d. And we are going to take a little survey. So the first question in the survey is, what is your favorite color? So everyone that's there, feel free to go ahead and just touch or tap or click on your favorite color. I'll do mine as well.
My favorite color is blue.
Now, CoughDrop, because it has some functionality that other systems don't have, it can actually dynamically be able to communicate across the web. We make it really easy to be able to do that. So I've programmed in this board that you're looking at is actually talking to a whole different web service. My server's broken. There we go. We already have a bunch of people filling it out. It's talking to a different web service, which you can see right here, and it's collecting all of the votes or all of the responses that people have made. So all I did is I hit a button inside of the AAC app, and this could be running on an iPad, it could be running on an Android tablet, and it can communicate with some separate service. So what we're seeing right now is just favorite colors, right? What's your favorite color? But because it's just posting some data, it's just posting whatever your vote was. But this could be a whole bunch of different sort of possibilities as well. It doesn't have to just be to collect data. You could use it, for example, to talk to if this, then that, to control home automation. So you could have a button inside of your AAC system that said dim the lights, right? Or turn up the temperature or turn down the temperature. And those kind of controls can be baked into the AAC app. You don't have to go to a separate app. You don't have to go to a separate service or anything. You can just go ahead and do it right here. So it looks like so far, purple and blue are our favorite colors. I hope I didn't influence things too much by saying blue was my favorite color, but there we go. We're gonna move on to the next question now. If you just hit next in this bottom corner, it will take you to the next screen. And the next question for you is, where are you hailing from? Are you from the Northeast, the Midwest, the West, the South, or somewhere else? I put some pictures here that, you know, very clearly and appropriately represent these regions of the United States of America. They're very accurate, and they obviously represent everyone inside of that area. So there should be no reason for anyone to be offended by those pictures. That's a joke, by the way. But we can go ahead and see here. We can go ahead and see here the results so far, where people are visiting from, or where people are watching from. And again, you can see right here. So even though this is, you know, just a silly little survey that we're doing, the idea that we can push this information to other systems and be able to drive other things. It could be a home automation. It could be additional resources in the classroom. We can actually launch, I'll show you in a minute, we can launch some applications inside of the AAC system as well. And that can all be automated. All right, so it looks like Northeast wins as far as our regions go. Our next question that we're going to ask is, are you Team Edward or Team Jacob? I didn't actually vote on the last one. Don't judge me. And I'm not going to, I don't know if I'm going to vote on this one either. But you should vote for one of them, because you might get a little bit of entertainment out of the response. So, oh no, we have 17 party poopers. People who said they're not Team Edward or Team Jacob. Looks like it's pretty close as far as the votes go. 10-6 though. Not bad. If you're wondering how this is working, if you're on the technical side or you know somebody that's on the technical side, this all can be programmed from CoughDrop by just anyone with a little bit of technical expertise. All it's doing is using an API. We program it into CoughDrop and say, when people hit this button, go ahead and send a message to this website. And the website collects the message. And in this case, all it's doing is collecting all of those votes and then showing the results here. But we could have it do more advanced things as well, like send a message to some other service, like a home automation service, or to turn on the TV, or to send an emergency alert to someone through whatever services or integrations we need to connect to send an email to someone, or send a text message. There's lots of options that we can do by being able to connect the AAC system to these other services. All right, well, it looks like we're actually pretty neck and neck. So well done, everybody. I assume most people were Team Edward just because I think, spoilers, he gets the girl. But hey, whatever. So then you hit next if you want to for a little thank you and a reward. The reward is something that you, I'm sure you will enjoy, because I'm sure you're not at all tired of it, or you haven't seen it before, so it'll be a pleasant surprise. So feel free to go ahead and enjoy that as well. We got a couple additional votes there at the end on the other other topics as well. All right, so that was fun, right? Just a little fun little interesting thought exercise. Again, here, if you're wondering why did we do that, the idea here is that in the past, when we think about AAC, we think about it as a system that is very self-contained, right? We say, here's our AAC device, and everything lives here on the device, and this is what we're going to use, and this is what we're going to interact with. So we program the vocabulary, we program things in, and it's all very static, right? We say, this is how we build it, and this is what it's going to do. And if we can find ways to think beyond that and start to open up and say, you know what, if we have an internet connection at least sometimes, or if we have these other flexibility options, what does that mean for us? What can we do that we wouldn't have been able to do before? And how can we really leverage the internet for these communicators? Because a lot of communicators that are using automated communication, they need a system like this, not just for speech, but for additional interactions as well. This could be a driver. AAC can be a driver for the needs of communicators in multiple settings and environments and multiple needs that they have. It can be for writing messages. It can be for being able to talk about places they want to go, but then also being able to find opportunities to get there and ways to be able to help and support them in getting there. So this was sort of a little intro, a little brain stretcher. We're going to do a couple more as well. But before I do, while I get the next one set up, if anyone has any questions, feel free to post them in the chat, and I'll give just a minute for questions. Okay, so the next one that we're going to do, and if you have questions, feel free to still type. Don't feel like you have to give up because I started talking again. The next one that we're going to do is the idea that in addition to having buttons that trigger things to happen remotely, we can actually have content that is generated dynamically as well. A lot of times when we think of AAC, we think, I have to program all that stuff in, right? So if we're going to put stuff in, I have to program it in. And a lot of times that's actually important. We want it to be static. We want core vocabulary to stay in the same spot so we can get a good motor plan. We want to have additional resources that are organized in a reasonable way. But there are times when being able to have dynamic content can actually be really valuable as well. For example, if we're talking about movies or music or other pop culture references, if you had to go in and program every time Taylor Swift came out with a new song, that would be kind of frustrating and kind of annoying. Or if every time there's a new movie that comes out, you have to go and change boards and reprogram things, that's a lot of time. And that's a lot of work that honestly doesn't happen. Maybe it would be in the ideal world, it would be great if it did, but it doesn't happen as much as it could. And so if we can find ways to be able to make that more automated, that can be of a lot of value. So what you're seeing here in CoughDrop is actually a dynamically generated board. I put in my zip code, and then I launch this, and this could be linked from any other board inside of the system. And as I launch this, it pulls up automatically the movies that are showing around me, around my zip code. So I can look, it's listings just like you get on Fandango. So I can go to any movie that I think is interesting, and I have some quick buttons here. So I can say,
I want to watch Leap.
I want to watch Leap. Or
what do you think about Leap?
What do you think about Leap? I can actually look at showtimes. So I can look at the movie theaters around me, and then I could go up to a ticket stand and I could order tickets.
Leap showing at 6:55 p.m.
And I could order tickets right here from inside of the system. So it's got dynamic content that's based on my current environment and my situation and the things that I may want to talk about, because it turns out pop culture is a great thing to be able to discuss and bring up and ask questions about, or to be able to actually go to the theater and to be able to order tickets, or go to the concession stand and be able to order things there as well. So being able to have something that's a little bit more dynamic than just a pre-programmed vocabulary set, it'll give flexibility to communicators to talk about things that are more contemporary. You can imagine that we could have a board that was actually about news, things that had happened most recently in the news, or music, songs that they like based on artists that they like. And those things, maybe we're more comfortable with them changing, and we're less worried about a consistent motor plan for some of this pop culture references and dynamic content, because it is changing so often, and it's going to change so often for the communicator as well. So that's another little thing to keep in mind. As we talk about AAC and how we can move it beyond just being a static set of boards, if we can have dynamic content in there, that can be really interesting and really valuable. Let's see, where's the next one I want to do? Any questions on that while I move on and get ready for the next set? Feel free to type them in the chat if you have anything you're wondering about or anything you want to discuss. And I'll give it a minute for any questions that are coming in. All right, so, oh, here we go. When you said the news could be updated into a page, how does that happen? So in the same way, so this board that you're looking at right now, when we see this movies board, I hit movies and it's pulling from the internet, it's pulling the most recent movies that are available. And so I can look at showtimes, I can talk about the movies if I'm interested in them, and that's based on the most recent showtimes for movies. But in addition to that, you could have a system which in a very similar way could grab headlines or grab topics, current affairs topics, and be able to dynamically put them in here as well. And so then the board would update whenever the user had internet, and they could always have fresh topics, and you wouldn't have to have somebody who's going in programming it all the time. It would be something that happened dynamically. The follow-up question says, can you organize it so age-appropriate news articles are placed on the user's boards? So this movies one is a demo, and having a news-based one, that's not something that we put together, but that's something that you could do and that we should start looking at in the AAC community is how do we do that? And how can we make that easy and appropriate and really cross-platform? One of the big things that we talk about at CoughDrop is we shouldn't have things so locked into a specific brand. It shouldn't be like, oh, well, I'm on this brand, and so I have this content that nobody else has, and I'm on this brand. We should be able to have resources that anyone can use and leverage. And so all the things that you're seeing here, all these magical buttons and these dynamic boards, we've actually created standards around them, technical standards, so that anyone who wants to leverage these resources can do it and can pull it inside of their own system. And other people could build resources as well. And over the next year, we're going to work with some programming teams and collaborate with some therapists to start to build more of these examples that could platform so that any system could use it and benefit from it rather than it being locked into, oh, you got to have CoughDrop if you want to do that, or oh, you have to have this system if you want to do that. We want it to be something that can work for anyone. So that's just how we feel about things. All right, next. There we go. So the next thing that we're going to talk about, this is another example of pulling in resources from other locations and sites. So my daughter, like I said, she uses AAC, and she specifically uses eye tracking. So some communicators that use augmented communication, they can switch between apps, right? So they can be in their speech app, and then they can exit out, and they can go to YouTube and watch the videos, or go to Angry Birds and play games, because they have the motor control to be able to do that. Many communicators who are using alternative access methods like switch access or eye tracking, that's not an option because those other systems don't have good access controls. Sometimes it's baked into the operating system, you can kind of get around it, but a lot of times we need something that's actually built specifically for communicators. And so we've looked at it and we said, you'll notice these demos that we're showing, these are baked into the AAC system. They launch inside of the AAC system. So they can use the voice that the communicators picked. They can use whatever access method has been set up. So they can use scanning or they can use eye tracking for these things. So this example that you're seeing right now, we're going to jump into a couple of these. These are Tar Heel reader books. And we can actually, you can take a Tar Heel reader book, you just copy the URL and you can paste it to link boards inside of CoughDrop, and it'll automatically bring the Tar Heel reader board inside of the AAC system, in this case CoughDrop. So if you're familiar with Tar Heel reader, this should look very familiar to you. You can go ahead and read through it just like you're used to.
Cookie Monster is ABC. A is for almond cookies. B is for blueberry cookies.
And you have
C is for chocolate cookies.
You have the resource built into the system. So that means that the activation buttons will work with eye tracking, it'll work with switch-based scanning, it'll speak in whatever voice it is that the communicator has programmed, and it's basically built into the AAC system. Again, this is a standardized thing, so anybody could really take advantage of it. If you know programmers or if you know people who have a technical bent, it wouldn't be that hard for them to be able to build demos of resources that we're launching inside of the AAC system. And we want to get it to the point where other vendors are doing this as well, because we really, 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 really don't want people to be locked in. That's a big mantra for me, is we shouldn't have lock-in. You shouldn't be using the app you're using because you're afraid to leave it. You should have much better reasons for using the app that you're using. And so we're trying to build things in a way that anyone can leverage these, and we can start to all work together instead of trying to compete quite so much. So all of these books are Tar Heel reader books. Here's a Jane Farrell book, I Spy.
I spy with my little eye dog. I spy with my little eye cat.
And it's not
I
going to
spy
be,
with my little eye mouse.
it's not that, and by the way, it's reading these out loud as we're going through them, but that's an option. You can have it optionally not read it out loud. You can have it hit a button to speak it. But it's reading it in the communicator's voice or in an alternate voice rather than just the Tar Heel reader voice, which you may be used to. So it's a little bit of a tighter integration, which is kind of fun and kind of interesting. So these are really easy to program in. Like I said, to do this, you just build a board and you say, I'm going to link it. I'm going to link this button to a website. You paste in a Tar Heel Reader link and it says, cool, I'll go ahead and launch that Tar Heel Reader book and the communicator can use it. We've done some additional things inside of CoughDrop to where you can actually add buttons based on Tar Heel Reader pages and books and things. So if you're using these books for assessments, it's really easy to be able to build a question and answer board so you can do assessments based on any of these books that you've been using. And be able to do that really easily inside of CoughDrop without so much copy and paste and drag and drop and things as you're programming. But it's a little fun, right? And as hopefully you can imagine how this could pull from additional resources as well, right? If we have programmers who are working on other integrations, this could be tied to some of the other reading libraries, some of the audio reading libraries that are out there. Anything on the web that has a good integration point can be able to have these kind of launches inside of the AAC system. When the communicator's done, if they're reading a book, when they're ready to move on, you don't have to say, okay, now let's switch apps. We were in the web browser, but now let's close the web browser and go back to the AAC system. They're still in the AAC system. So they just hit back. They're back where they were before. They hit home and they go back to their home board. Any questions about this one? About these Tar Heel Reader and some of these other launching integrations that we've been talking about? While I get our next thing ready. Can't hear you, Lucas. If you're talking, looks like you're talking.
Yeah. I'm liking a lot of these comments here. We have people offering to help out with some code. Carolyn Muscle, I love not having to go in and out, so this is great. There is one question I see here about the news being populated, whether it can be organized so it's age appropriate.
Yeah, so we talked about that a little bit, and I mean the answer is yes, what you want, right? So we don't have a news listing example that we've built, but it would be really easy to build that. And if somebody wanted to do something that was able to only pull in age-appropriate news resources, that'd be pretty relatively straightforward to do. There's websites already out there that just aggregate news for you. So
cool.
All right, I'm going to post another link inside of the chat. Feel free to hop there when you have a minute if you're interested in following along. Or the link is also here on the screen. It's a bit.ly link, bit.ly/2WWI capital V lowercase f6. And I will show you what that looks like. So one of the other things that we have that's really valuable about being able to have a web-based AAC system. If you went to aacsummit.com, if you went to the website for this AAC After Work conference, you saw actually CoughDrop rendered inside of a web page. You can embed the CoughDrop app, you can embed boards in CoughDrop into websites, which is interesting because you could do some interesting things. You can just be able to have some links like Lucas put together for that demo, but you can also start to put together some training resources. which is what you're seeing right here. If you've gone to the link or seeing right here on my screen, is some of the training opportunities that are available once you have AAC that doesn't have to be locked to the device. So in CoughDrop, boards are actually synced across devices. They're backed up automatically to the cloud. Everything's secure and protected, but the data can be pulled from more than one device. So you could actually embed a communicator's boards into a website, and you could do some training for that individual's board set. So the family members or caregivers or supporters, they don't have to have the communicator's device to practice. One of the really rough things about AAC modeling, or I shouldn't say rough, one of the biggest constraints of AAC modeling is that we have a lot of potential modelers who don't know the system. They're not proficient. They don't know where the buttons are. They don't know what the vocabulary is. They just don't have the experience, and they haven't invested the time to get proficient. So they say, oh, he knows the boards better than I do anyway, so I don't need to learn it. Or it's really hard because there's a lot of things there and I don't know where to find the buttons that I should use. And so if we can make it easy to put together some training materials for the staff and the support team, and sometimes even the communicator, then I feel like we can really raise the bar as far as communication support goes and have better modeling, have better interventions. So that's the idea with this page that you're seeing right now. This is actually, there's a little mini programming language to it. It's not terribly complicated. You can see it down here at the bottom. Basically what this is doing is this is saying, I'm going to create a series of little modules or lessons. And for each one of those modules or lessons, I'm going to look for certain things. So for example, this first one, you can see up here saying, hey, welcome to AAC. It's a very, very light intro. If we were doing this for real, we'd spend more time on it. But then it's saying, let's see if you can find the word done. So once you have the boards in front of you, once you have this little training tool that's put together, now it's saying, all right, let's go ahead and look for something that the communicator or the learner, whoever the learner may be, can access. So once they've hit a button that says done, and it says awesome.
Done.
Oops. That was a mistake. So once they've done that, then it moves on to the next part of the lesson. And it can work through each part of the lesson, and they can learn as they go. So you can have something that's very focused. You can say, this is what, these are the words that we're working on this month. Let's go ahead and put some training materials around. Let's make an activity out of it. And that could be something as basic as just saying, where's the button? Or you could put together stories, right? And say, so-and-so is having a bad day. What can we say to help them feel better? And the programming around it, you can look for specific words or you can look for optional. You can say any of these words would work. So you can get some real flexibility in what it is that you're looking for in order for them to pass the test of using the AAC system. So there's a lot of potential here, I feel like, to be able to help train families and to be able to help train support staff without saying, you know what, go download the app, go buy the app, and we'll figure it out. We'll do a 10-minute training and then you'll be on your way, which I feel like happens far too often. It's really hard sometimes to be able to get that training and put it together. Once you have it, once you've built some of these resources around it, then you can just distribute it, right? You could say, here's the link. Go ahead and go take this first module and we can talk about what you learned. Here's 3 modules that you can do, and each one of them will focus on a little bit of different things, and then as you do that, they'll start to get proficient. Because the only way really to get proficient at modeling and practicing is to do it. And the only reason to do it is if you have a motivation to do it. Sometimes you just need homework, right, in order to get things done, in order to get the practice that you need. And so we're putting together some of these resources. This is running in CoughDrop, but a lot of things we're talking about can really be generalized across the board. If you have another system, one of the nice things about CoughDrop, it's really easy to program. And we actually do free accounts for therapists. So one of the things that you can do is you can duplicate the boards you have somewhere else inside of CoughDrop, and then you could build these training materials. So even if you're not using CoughDrop for the AAC communicator, if they're using a different system, you can duplicate it in here, and then you can provide links to the team so that they can practice and they can get proficient and more effective at their modeling their support strategies. So hopefully this can help. We'll continue to work on this. We're actually putting together a whole website that has some of these resources, some of these training materials and things, and also some core vocabulary tools. And that'll come out if you keep an eye out here in the next couple months. But if you wanted to play with this specifically right away, I'd be happy to, give you access to it and any questions or answers that you have around it. In fact, I'm going to put my email in. If you have questions about any of the things that we've talked about, feel free to shoot me an email, and I'd be happy to answer them. We do online trainings all the time. We do virtual trainings specifically about CoughDrop, AAC in general, whatever people need. So if there are needs or interests, I'd be happy to help support them and get out the good word. So those are the big things that I wanted to talk about. Once you have a system like this that you can drop it in other tools, you can pull it up on whatever device you've got, you can sync across devices. It really opens things up because you can have the staff practicing and learning and getting proficient without ever having to worry about taking the device away from the communicator. You don't have to say, leave this overnight and then I'll get it back to you tomorrow after I've gotten used to things myself. You do it on the device that you've got wherever that is, and you can keep growing your own proficiency and building training resources for the team wherever they're at. There was one other thing I want to show. CoughDrop makes it really easy to pull in YouTube videos, which can be a great motivator for communicators. So you can be able to just drop in, just like with the Tar Heel Reader links, you can drop in YouTube videos. Like My Little Pony, and be able to have some of those resources that can be great motivators for communicators. So that can be really nice. Also, I always point this one out. Sometimes you don't need a motivator so much as an unmotivator. You need something that the communicator can say, no, I did not like that. So we always make sure with our videos that we put something that's a little bit cringeworthy. Because it's great for communication to be able to say, no, I don't like that, and I don't want that. That wasn't actually fun for me. So being able to have that kind of counter communication can be really great as well. So those are some of the resources that we have that we put together. Hopefully this was a little bit of fun for you to be able to experiment with some of the things that we can do. I'm happy to answer questions. If you type them in, I'm happy to answer questions in the time we have left. Or after the fact, if you want to shoot me an email. There's a lot of, I've talked about a lot of sort of technical things. So if you feel like it went a little bit over your head, don't feel like you're a dumb person or anything like that. But just try to keep with the main thread, right? Which is that when we have the internet at our disposal, AAC can change in a really interesting way. And we can pull in different resources. And as we do that, we can open up opportunities for our communicators that they didn't have before. And we can really make some great things happen that wouldn't have been possible by just having a static set of tools that the communicators using.
It's fantastic. Thank you so much for presenting. Please, folks, feel free to type in questions. Brian's been kind enough to work with me for a while about integrating some of this technology into the speech science website. So if you go to our AAC section, I linked it a little bit prior. There's some of these boards that you can play with, sort of experiment with. I'm really excited to see with the development of the training resources too. So I'll be latching myself onto anything and everything that I can to make it available, because we know from research that training this Strickle support is one of the biggest predictors of success, and that's one of the things I think we do the worst. Brian, I had a question for you, since I'm not seeing a ton of stuff pop up. Is I know you also have some initiatives about open source in other areas. Could you speak to open symbols or? Yeah.
Sure. So one of the things that you may have caught this trend as I've been talking. We believe a lot in openness. I believe that businesses can make money, and they should make money, but they don't have to make money by exclusivity and saying we're the best because we have secret things and we don't ever let our customers leave. We should be successful as businesses because people want what we're offering and they want to be able to see what's available. So a lot of the things that we do in CoughDrop are open. We have open standards. The app, actually CoughDrop is open source. You can go look at the source code on the internet and see it for yourself. One of the initiatives that we also have is called Open Symbols. And this is what you're seeing here is a library of open licensed symbols that anyone can use. If you go to opensymbols.org, all of these symbols have a Creative Commons or a public domain license, which means that you can use them for resources that you have without having to worry so much about copyright issues, without having to worry about getting sued. All you have to do is make sure you give credit to the authors, and the attribution is always right there on the website, so it's really easy to grab. But these symbols, there's a bunch of different libraries, and there's lots of different symbols here. There's, as you go through, you can see there's a library called AAC, which is a very, sort of vector-based iconography. There's some white on black symbols in what's called sclera, which is a high contrast symbol set. There's a symbol set called Tawasal, which has some similar to AAC, with some Arabic and additional resources there. There's lots of different options of symbols that you can pull in, and all of these are open license. So we use them inside of CoughDrop. They're the default libraries inside of CoughDrop, and you can definitely pull in these symbols and use them as much as you need to. I see a question here. It says, we continue to hear that we shouldn't change the motor planning patterns for users. How do we justify moving from one AAC platform to another? For example, TouchChat to CoughDrop. So two things. One, you can definitely reproduce what you've built inside of other systems when you migrate to another app. And we try to make that really easy in CoughDrop. We have resources that can help with that. We have teams that can help with that. But then also programming in CoughDrop is actually pretty easy. You can just pull it up in your web browser, and you'll be amazed how much more time that saves programming on a computer instead of doing it on a device. The other thought on that, some of the things that we get hung up about motor plans, for some of our communicators, it's a very big deal and it's very important. For some of our communicators, there's actually a little bit more plasticity there or flexibility there than we may initially think. And so sometimes moving things around, maybe not in drastic ways, but sometimes moving things around can actually be beneficial because it provides interest and it provides a little bit of newness. For my daughter, for example, when we tweak things, when we start to add new buttons, or we say, you know what, this isn't a good layout, let's rearrange this subboard a little bit. We've had her all of a sudden get motivated and start to broaden her vocabulary in a way that she didn't before because there's a little bit of newness to it. So that's very communicator specific, very much depends on the communicator, but we actually have seen a lot more communicators than we expected not have issues with switching systems, switching symbol libraries, and even sometimes switching layouts. So just something to keep in mind. I think you're muted again, Lucas.
I'm not very good at this muting thing. I think I was better when I was Alexa.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that we should get Alexa back on here.
Yeah, come on, Alexa. Oh, I just said her name and now she's awake.
Oh.
Well, thank you very much for presenting. I think that was fantastic. I also appreciate that you're making your information available for future contact. I did see one question. Are you going to be at Closing the Gap?
Yeah, we'll be there. Feel free to stop by the booth. I don't remember what the number is, but we should be pretty easy to find.
Cool. Great. Well, that will conclude this webinar. So thanks so much for joining. Please do stick around for our final one of the day, which will be Kara Bidstrup here in a moment. So take a little 15-minute break, and once again, thanks for talking with us, Brian.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.